Hello, I'm Mark Staples. Welcome to Charter's Local Edition, coming to you from the Montana State Capitol as we preview the 2015 legislative session here in Helena, slated to start in January. My guest for this segment is Austin Knudsen from Culbertson, Montana. And Austin, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Mark.
And tell us a little about how you came to be in this. Now, for background, I'm going to say that within hours, we'll know whether you are the Speaker of the House for 2015.
I am one of the candidates for Speaker of the House, yeah.
So how did you come to even get involved in the Montana legislature?
Well, I guess I was seduced.
I see your wife is over in the corner. Is anything to do with it?
I mean, was asked to run by lots of my local people, and several people weren't happy with what we had for representation, and just kind of that same old story.
And your background is both law and agriculture, correct?
Grew up on a farm and ranch, yeah, right up in the northeast corner of the state. Grew up raising small grains and registered Angus cattle and lots of hay. And after college, decided maybe I'd give law school a try, and that worked out for me. So I've been practicing law, private practice now since 2008. So got the ag background and the law background.
And this will be your third term, correct?
This is my third session. I was first elected in 2010.
Now there was a time when a third termer wouldn't be going for Speaker of the House, but term limits has changed all that.
Term limits has changed everything. Unfortunately, we're on a much more abbreviated schedule. You only get 4 terms in the House.
Right.
So just by the nature of the system, I mean, by the time you're a second termer, you're considered a senior statesman in Montana.
Well, tell me whether you achieved the speakership or not. You've noted some things that you would like to achieve or at least address in the session. One of them comes from your part of the state, the Bakken Infrastructure impact of all the development over there versus the facilities that there are to address it. And there are 2 options for financing that on the table. One is to pay from the surplus, cash, and another is to bond or borrow the money.
Right.
Where do you fall in that spectrum?
Well, I mean, those are the 2 big questions on this infrastructure issue. I mean, first of all, so the listeners and viewers understand, I represent the extreme northeast corner of the state, and I mean, my farm is literally about 20 miles away from Williston, North Dakota. I mean, we're right on the state border. I'm from Bainville, so we are right in the heart of what Bakken development is going on in Montana. I mean, obviously most of it's going on east of the state line, but we do have some spillover coming into Montana, and a lot of that is directly on Highway 2, straight west of Williston.
It's impacted law enforcement, it's impacted
Absolutely.
Housing, it's impacted roads, it's impacted infrastructure, utilities, all of it has it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can talk about my home county's jail. I mean, it's an old naval brig that's almost 100 years old.
It used to be sufficient.
It used to be fine, when it was, the 2 or 3 local drunks that we all knew, and what little crime there was in Roosevelt County. And now, I mean, just talking to local law enforcement and the local county attorneys, you've got hardened criminals with, arms-long rap sheets who are in the Bakken expressly to traffic drugs. And these are guys with serious criminal offenses.
So assuming everybody agrees that there's the need,
Sure.
What's the vehicle for the financing?
Well, obviously,
that can pass this legislation.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I'm going to go into the session wanting to pay for it cash. And we're sitting on over $350 million in surplus in the state budget. That was our pitch last time. Frankly, last time I thought it was a very modest proposal. House Bill 218 ended up only being $35 million. We need easily 4 times that. Easily. We could spend tomorrow on infrastructure in eastern Montana for the Bakken. But that's what we ended up with last session, and unfortunately that bill was vetoed. So I would like to run the same sort of a vehicle and pay cash for it. We've got the funds. I can't for the life of me see any reason why we would want to borrow that money and pay interest on the backs of the Montana taxpayers.
Speaking of cash, one of the subjects you wanted to discuss is income tax relief. What kind of income tax relief are you formulating?
Well, and income tax relief maybe is too specific.
Broad.
I mean, too specific.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
I'm interested in some broad-based, widespread tax relief, Mark. I mean, again, we're sitting on a $350 million surplus. Well, it's more than that, but I mean, somewhere between, depending on where the estimate comes out, we're between $350 and $400 million. That's not just magic money that the state made and we're able to have and spend wherever we want. That's taxpayer revenue. And the taxpayers in Montana paid that money to the state. We had to collect that, and that's more money than the state needs to operate.
How much do you want to give back?
I would love to see a $100 million tax cut. I would love to see that go back to the people of Montana.
How about, I know that it's been, you've spoken about this before, I've heard you, school choice. Talk to me about school choice. People hear that term, but what does it imply?
Well, look, we have choice in all facets of our life. We're able to go out, and if we feel like having McDonald's for lunch, we can go have McDonald's. Maybe I want to go have Mexican food. Maybe I want to go have Chinese food. We have choice in all facets of our life. If I want to buy a Ford, I can buy a Ford to drive. If I want to buy a GM, I can buy a GM to drive. But for some reason in the state of Montana, we've been told that one size fits all. Public school is good enough for everyone. And I've got nothing against public school. I want to make that clear. I've got 2 little kids. They're both in public school, and they're served great in the local public school system. My teachers in my public school district do a fantastic job. There are children in the state of Montana who aren't being served as well by the public school system. And what I would like to do is provide parents the opportunity to have some choice for their kids.
Does the choice, the opposition I hear to that, because it sounds good in theory, and then I hear the other side says, well, yeah, fine, have all the private charter optional schools you want, but you pay for them because we only have enough money for the system we have in place. So does the choice that you envision take some public funding for the choice schools?
The way I envision it, yeah, it would. I mean, the funding formula we have for our schools in Montana is based on per child enrollment. So, I mean, if that's the basis we're starting with, if the public school
So if you get an optional school that has this many students, give them the same deal.
Well, I mean, I would just say if you've got a public school with 100 kids in it and they're getting paid X number of dollars per kid, obviously if 10 of those kids decide to leave that school and go to a different school, the school's going to lose that money anyway. And if we're funded on a per child basis, then in theory that public school shouldn't need that funding for those children. And why shouldn't it follow the kids?
Well, of course, there's just 3 of 4,000 bills that will come in between now and January.
Roughly.
We're going to have to wrap this up. I really enjoyed seeing you. I look forward to seeing you through the session. I hope you have a great session. You got some parting words of what you hope, how the session will evolve, the tone of it, how you will work with the governor's office. Any closing thoughts?
Sure. I'm looking forward to a professional civil session. I mean, that's one thing we've always had a very good working relationship with the governor. Last session, being in leadership, very professional, courteous staff. He's a pleasure to work with. I mean, obviously we're on other sides of the political spectrum, and we're going to butt heads on that. But looking forward to continuing the civil discourse with the governor in his office.
Well, thanks for coming by.
Thanks, Mark.
And thank you all for tuning in to Charter's Local Edition. And be sure to thank these people for taking the time to serve you in Helena. It's not an easy task. Thanks very much.